really punctual people. You're the one that's starting 5 minutes late.
Yeah, you're the one who's.
Is that why you're putting the 5 up, because you're 5 minutes late? And we are live. Welcome to NBA Live Before Lock. It is Monday, May 6th. I am Josh Engleman, joined by Eric Lindquist. We are brought to you by Underdog. 2-game slate today. First one, Knicks, Pacers. Excited to watch that series. Want to see those two teams play different teams now and see if how the series changes. Minnesota, Denver, game 2. The season hangs in the balance for the Denver Nuggets already. Rudy Gobert, questionable. We don't know if he's playing today. Should be fun. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Franz Wagner, nuke of the night.
Oops. Here's the thing. One of the things you should know about playoff time is that, you can kind of, in January NBA DFS, you can have flatter exposures as things progress. I mean, obviously you're jamming a lot of certain value pieces come the end of the NBA season, but come playoff time, you're going to have stuff like that happens where it's just like, oh yeah, Franz Wagner was terrible. And there's just no recovering from it. He was in just basically everything that I did. He was my highest owned captain at the end of the day. And well, I got to move on to baseball, which was really successful yesterday. So that ended up being all right in that department, but not very excited for Cleveland and Boston, that's for sure.
It's really weird. If you could go back in time and you knew his shot attempts, you'd be like, all right, well, I'm real happy with getting Franz. Same situation for Suggs. It's like these guys were 3 for 40 or whatever the hell they were yesterday. If you just knew the field goal attempts, I would probably have more than what I ended up with. That was the nut low of made baskets.
Yep. And you could play the same thing with minutes with certain players too, where it's like, oh, this guy played a bunch more than we expected. I'm just trying to think of somebody specifically over the last couple of slates. Yesterday was obviously just the one game. Like if you knew Caris LeVert, you would have jammed Caris LeVert if you knew he was going to be playing that much in that spot based on his ownership, based on everything else. But you got to make some calculated stands. Didn't see Sam Hauser entering the rotation in that second quarter and going ballistic. I don't know if he ended up optimal. I stopped looking at pretty much everything that had to do with that game from a DFS perspective in that second half. But we're here doing the best we can. We're not going to be perfect in a lot of ways, but again, over a long sample size, over the course of these NBA playoffs, the goal is for Josh and I to have that one slate to rule them all, one slate to find them. Think we can do that. And I know you hate those movies. Sorry.
Well, it's okay. Just I hated my performance as well, so it goes right along with those movies.
Well, it was pretty terrible too. I think I lost. I cashed 1 out of 41 lineups yesterday. That was awesome.
Love the excuses. Just admit you whiffed and move on. Stick to value plays. You're both better at that. I might just bitch about this for the next hour just to prove a point.
Please stop. No. We can go on to today.
It's incredible.
Here's the thing.
I wish I could like understand how a person's brain works when they process words, because that just glitched out.
So yesterday, if people saw, I don't know, it was in the premium Discord, I posted it, but I've been doing home run round robins. It's like the first time in my life I've enjoyed doing something that was like parlay based from a betting perspective. Generally not my favorite thing. I just feel like you're leaving money on the table over any long sample size doing it that way. But round robins are different. These things are really, really fun to do. And ended up hitting 5 of the 8 home run plays, turned to $96 into over $5,000 on FanDuel yesterday. And then today I was like, you know what? I should take advantage. I should post the round robin for the people on Twitter. And then I put explicitly in there at the top of the bar, here are my 8 home runs on FanDuel. Please confirm they're in the lineup before submitting, or else it's live action if they appear in the game. Posted the plays. I don't have the tickets up yet because specifically I was waiting to get all the lineups. Of course, Pete Alonso isn't in the lineup. I have legitimately, no joke, 40 DMs asking me, what are you doing with Alonso? What are you doing with Alonso? Are you turning that into anything else? And I'm just like, I put it in big bold on the front of the tweet and people aren't reading it. So reading comprehension, definitely not gambling Twitter's strongest skill set. That's for sure.
No, it is not. All right, we're in. It is time to break down the pay up options for today. There's a couple ways we could look at this. We're going to do it in tiers. We have Nikola Jokic at 11K, Jalen Brunson at 9,500, Anthony Edwards at 9K. Brunson is at least twice as owned as Jokic, 3 times as owned as Anthony Edwards. Is Jalen Brunson your preferred option out of those three?
No, it's Jokic.
Okay.
And people know I'm a Timberwolves fan. I feel like this is a game Denver could. I don't think there's a situation at altitude here where you're going to see Jokic inserted for 46, 44 minutes. I definitely am projecting Jokic for 42 minutes though tonight. I see a lot of ways that Peyton Watson's not even like in the rotation. Basically, he had like the one stint. They don't want to dust off DeAndre Jordan here. This is going to be obviously dependent. Gobert on the other side, it sounds like, just looking at some tweets, and I retweeted the one thing that we have from our Minnesota beat writer where it sounds as though Gobert can make it here tonight. I don't know what's going on. Obviously, this is, the birth of a child and things are private for it. And, it's understandable to a certain extent, but like, I don't think it really even matters whether or not Gobert's in or not for me and the exposure I'm going to have to Jokic. I think either way, I'm going to jam him, but it would really suck to have Naz Reid show up as like the absolute must-have value play du jour in the event that you had no Gobert out there and not have all the room already made up for Jokic at 11K in a game that, if there's any question in the second half that it's out of balance or any skewed, like if they're down 6, if they're down 8, even if they're up 8, 10, so many scenarios where Jokic plays 24 minutes in the second half here, and that just creates the best player on planet Earth playing ad nauseum, potentially without the best defensive player on the Minnesota side out there. So for me, Jokic is just like an absolute jam today. I'll let the people tell you, I'll let you tell the people what you're doing, but I currently have 76% Jokic, my second highest owned player.
I mean, I would not mind that right now.
Yeah.
It's not what I have. So I'm with the field on Jalen Brunson. We have 67% ownership. I have a little over 70. But I actually have Edwards. He's in 34% of my stuff. We're projecting 21, whereas we're projecting 34% ownership to Jokic. I have half of that. And for the most part, I'm okay with it. Other than I think Denver wins the game. And when Denver wins, I assume Jokic plays really well. When Denver wins the game, I assume Anthony Edwards doesn't play really well. Those things aren't going with how I expect today to go. It's been really interesting to watch the Denver line climb. It's higher than it was for game one. Mm-hmm. Then it jumped even more once the Gobert news came out. You got to factor in him not being there. But it was very interesting to see that line movement. It seems like the consensus is Denver gets this one back and they don't drop another one at home. Will be a disaster if they do. Unfortunately, though, for me, at 11K, you're a much more duped build if you get to Nikola Jokic right now. And I'm not saying that in terms of, like it happened, like you got to roster him too. That's fine. There's a reason he's in a third of lineups, but I like some center from the Knicks, whether that's Hartenstein, whether that's Mitchell Robinson, whether that is, I don't have him, but whether that's Precious Achiuwa, he's available for it. Miles Turner is out there looking very good to me. We have center options on the Minnesota side as well. I can handle being light on Jokic. I just hate the fact that the game script is where I'm at right now. But for Brunson at 9,500, I mean, this is going to be a much easier time than what he had against Milwaukee. Like Indy probably doesn't have the resistance that you're looking for. Should get to the rim whenever he wants to. I'm happy to eat his ownership, but after him, it gets a little dicey for me. But I'm choosing Edwards over Jokic.
I get the Edwards play. I'm lower on him for this game specifically. He had some open shots there too. He knocked down some contested jumpers in KCP's face. KCP, one of the better 3-and-D players that exists on planet Earth. We know that, but the Jalen Brunson thing's interesting to me. I was a gigantic proponent. His points prop opened at 33.5, and it was an absolute shove jam situation from last night from a betting perspective. It's up to 36.5 everywhere right now. Trying to find out what it is over at our sponsor Underdog here at the moment, but he's had north of a 38% usage over the last calendar month. The Knicks played a lot of games that mattered coming down the stretch, so I'm including that sample size to make it a little bit more palatable, as opposed to just saying, 40% usage guaranteed here, like we saw in some of those games. And for me, it's just he looks ridiculously good. Just raw points. 36.5 is where his line now is over on Underdog. So unbelievable run out here for that. If you got in at 33.5, he's 34.5 at a different pick'em spot. I bet you can guess which one that is. But yeah, there are definitely some ways that you want to be investing in Jalen Brunson tonight. For me, I'm pretty happy with the exposure I have to that points prop. And again, playing DFS can be a proponent of your betting and so on and so forth. But I am not going to be getting to the field here on him because of how much Jokic I have. It would be weird if I could get to both of them in that kind of a regard. And I'm still playing a lot more of these value pieces than I probably should just to be getting to Jokic, but am preloading some lineups with the Cat, preloading some lineups with Nas, preloading some lineups with a lot of these guys. Not that it should be that hard on a 2-game slate to maneuver around and get to as much as some of those guys as possible. But I do think the Knicks, if you just run the Sims tool unencumbered, you do run into that center situation where it's like Mitchell Robinson or Isaiah Hartenstein. And then how many Knicks are too many Knicks, where my highest owned player right now is OG Anunoby. I'm pretty positive that he stays on the floor forever in this series. And DiVincenzo, he's somebody that's popping. I feel less confident that we're going to know exactly what happens between him and McBride, because it could just be as simple as like a hot hand situation between the two at any given moment. I know it ended up being more of DiVincenzo down the end of it, and McBride got completely screwed out of the rotation, but there's no reason it can't flip there. Those are the things I'm less positive of. I'm very positive that Jokic, under any circumstances that are not injury or foul trouble, he's going to play 40 plus minutes in a competitive spot here.
I have a little bit, not that this matters right now, but I have a little bit more of Naz Reid and a little bit less of Towns. That makes me feel pretty good. I'm banking on the Karl Anthony Towns foul trouble narrative for today.
Okay, there we go. I mean, that's like every game that's ever mattered that I've ever watched Cat play in, so it feels like my entire life. The one thing too that might, I don't know, he's sub 7K for a reason. I mean, we saw him playing mid 20s minutes until the 31-point eruption, the 31-minute eruption he had in the game 4 against Phoenix, and then that carried over. Really nice third quarter, started that third quarter for him in game 1 of this one. 6,800 still pretty darn cheap for him, but I understand that. Like, for me, Naz Reid is definitely going to be a big piece of this slate, kind of regardless of what happens. Like, I think that he's cheap enough where even if you have Gobert in, maybe, it's not something where they give him complete full run. We saw Naz Reid. It was almost like debatable on whether they should close with him or Cat, with how well Nas played in that fourth quarter. Cat came in later into that fourth quarter with foul trouble for sure, but also, I mean, Nas had it going. So lots of ways that I think the Minnesota stuff can fall differently. It could really fall differently if there's no Gobert.
I'm just fascinated by the matchup because it's weird. Like they got to guard Jokic with Towns, and then he, runs into Gobert at the rim after he gets off of Aaron Gordon. Anytime Jokic gets Gobert, I mean, he eats him alive. Gobert has no chance on Jokic in the one-on-one scenarios. Foul trouble is so massive here because the moment they have to start guarding Jokic with Gobert, Jokic is butter. He's gonna get to his spot. He's gonna get a bucket. That is not what Gobert is out there for. So the balance there, like if we get another first half of Naz Reid's first half, that's great for Denver. If we get Naz Reid's second half, they might not even put Karl Anthony Towns back out on the floor if it keeps going the way that it's going.
Yep, totally, 100%. Somebody just put Jaden McDaniels owns Jamal Murray. He owned him in game 1. There's a part of me that thinks Jamal Murray isn't 100%, which again, from I want to have my team, my Timberwolves, earn it, but also I kind of want them to just get through any way, shape, or form. I want him to be okay. Jamal Murray is one of the most enjoyable players to watch in the NBA, has a mid-range game, which, he shoots well enough that it actually makes sense to exist. He's just a really special basketball player who's hit some crazy cool shots in the last couple of years. Want to see him stay healthy, but I think that calf might be a little bit of an issue, but there's no doubt Jaden McDaniels is a beast out there. And Jaden McDaniels is going to be a huge stand for me today. 39 minutes of him, just throw the box score out the window. Give me 39 minutes of Jaden McDaniels in any game in this series. I'm going to be jamming in a lot of these spots. I bet you are too.
Sorta. We'll get to him.
Okay.
All right, let's open up to tier 2 of the payups. Jamal Murray is 8K, Pascal Siakam 8,100, Tyrese Halliburton 8,300. Siakam only 9% owned. Halliburton around 15, Jamal Murray around 20. I'm a little over on Halliburton, a little over on Murray, having some trouble getting to Pascal Siakam, and really don't love this spot for Siakam.
I like getting to Jamal Murray a little bit more than Halliburton for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, he didn't look right in that first game. You don't know what that health looks like entirely, but it can flip on a dime here. He's $300 less, and even just having that $800 or 8K piece there, save the $300, Halliburton going into the slowest matchup that you could run into in the NBA there with the Knicks over the course of the regular season, that is. But it is definitely an up-tempo spot here for the Knicks and the opposite for the Pacers. But he's 8,300. I understand why you're getting to him there. I'm just basically doing the identical thing with Jamal Murray, who has a higher optimal percentage in our boom bust tool, and just having a little bit more exposure to the late game in like more expensive pieces, just to be able to move things around if there is no Gobert. I think that's just the reason I'm getting to more Murray than Halliburton, not necessarily a stand on. I mean, they're projected for about the exact same thing here. Do you have like a massive projection disparity between the two for any reason?
Between Halliburton and Murray?
Yeah.
0.8 of a point.
There you go. Yeah, 0.6 of a point here at Stochastic. And so looking at, 21.5 for Halliburton, 15% ownership. Murray, 27%, 20% ownership. Like, I think this is a pretty good spot to be getting leverage on at least one of the two, maybe both. But for me, it just would appear I'm going the Jamal Murray side of it. I'm a little bit under on Halliburton, sitting at 10% of my lineups.
Do you think you get to Siakam? I find it hard.
No, I doubt I do. This is just such a miserable spot. We're going to, I would assume, we're going to see 8,100 turn into 7,500, and then we'll talk. But with Miles Turner at 6,700, I know we don't have the warm fuzzies on Miles Turner here, but at least he can step out on the perimeter, possibly pull Hartenstein. I mean, Miles Turner shot the ball well in some spots until he just didn't and completely set us on fire the other night. But I definitely see myself getting to more of the Miles Turner side of things. Again, Jokic is eating up so much of my center spot, but when we saw Milwaukee, 3 for 9, 3 for 6, 4 for 10, 7 for 9 from 3, I mean, saw some really good shooting performances till it kind of slowed down towards the end there for Miles Turner. Completely different matchup here, though. I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out, but we're getting a pretty decent price difference between Siakam down to Turner there, $1,400. Find that pretty difficult to get away from. Siakam not pulling any ownership. If you're super chalky elsewhere, go ahead. But for me, it's not going to be somebody who shows up in more than like 4 or 5% of my lineups.
We have now reached the most interesting time of NBA Live before lock. It is time to find out who will be the exotic play of the day. It always gets better. All right. You are a possible choice.
Yeah. I think it's very clear where the field is going as their guy. I guess they're next to each other, both 50-ish%. But I will say, I don't know how the field can feel so confident about DiVincenzo. I don't feel that confident about DiVincenzo.
I don't know who to take here.
Yeah, I'm under on the exotics, it would appear.
Oh,
I guess mine's pretty obvious. I get to take the low-hanging fruit because I'm playing him and you're not. Nikola Jokic, we're talking about the best player on planet Earth. Anthony Edwards, again, he plays for my team. He was the best player on the floor in game 1. It was awesome. It was incredible. He's 22. I would very much like to start a basketball team with him and just say, come at me with everybody else except for probably Wembanyama, where, we could probably have that conversation. But Jokic is the best player over the last couple of years, and it's not remotely close. He's 11K. It's kind of a must-win game here for Denver before they go to the Target Center, which should be absolutely out of control. Just knowing, having been there my entire life, it's going to be an amazing environment with the Minnesota fans there. But Jokic is 11K. He fills center where you have two options, I think, in Hartenstein and Robinson. I'm going to the lower own between the two. I got to go to Jokic as the exotic play of the night.
Yeah, I get it. I don't have the ability to do that one, obviously. I think I really only have one choice here.
Please be TJ McConnell just for the troll. Please.
Not a single share of TJ McConnell today. Not that anybody's going to be surprised. Donte DiVincenzo, come on down. 5,600, 50% owned, 50% in my lineups. could play a ton. I think the series looks a lot better for him than the previous series did.
Agreed.
Happy to go there. That we don't really have many other choice. I mean, some people would pick TJ McConnell. He is 25% owned. That is not on my radar. And after that, I don't think we have any other choices. I think that's it. I think we only have two people today.
Yeah, it's so wild.
Christian Brown.
Yeah, Christian Brown. Sure.
Although, you say his name, Christian Brown, maybe he doesn't count. It's an interesting dynamic. So Dante DiVincenzo
doesn't look like Brown though. You know what I mean? It doesn't look like the name.
I hear you. Dante DiVincenzo.
I remember when everybody called him Christian Braun his rookie year. That was pretty funny to me.
It's because that's what it is.
I suppose.
K Powers, Hartenstein doesn't count.
Yeah, he's got a parent that's black, right?
He does.
Yeah, that's what I thought. You're the one who actually told me that a while back.
I mean, he said it on a pod like a month ago.
Okay, yeah, you told me that on a show recently.
Yeah, so Hartenstein doesn't count. He is my most exposed guy that people would get wrong. That's for sure.
There you go. That's fair.
All right, let's talk GPP plays. Actually, you know what? Let's talk a little bit about OddsShopper. We're always talking about dropping bets. It's not just DFS around these parts. We have the OddsShopper YouTube channel. You guys can sign up for OddsShopper, clicking the link in the description or the one in chat. We take a market-based approach to beating the books. It's not just about picks for us. We're putting the data behind the model. You get expected value, expected win rates. We have optimizers for pick'em sites, parlay builders, odds boost calculators, brand new overhauled live odds screen with tons of data that you can dig into if you're looking for a little bit more. It's very easy to sign up. Just click that link in chat or the one in the description. Let's hit the super chats too. Ace of Spades, DK Tiers. Should have known.
Yep. If Jokic is in tier 1, what are we even doing here?
I'm guessing he's not. But maybe he is.
I don't know. With Brunson there, I guess
right now.
It's not like as apocalyptic as it's been on other slates throughout the playoffs.
He is. So Jokic, tier 1. The pick is Jokic.
Why are we doing this? Why DraftKings?
Halliburton, Murray, Siakam, Gobert, Josh Hart.
It is Murray for me.
It is Murray for me as well. Tight squeeze there with Halliburton. I think you can go either way. Towns, Turner, Porter Jr., Gordon, and Anunoby.
Towns by a lot.
I have Turner right now.
I have Towns already, and then I would be wanting to jam Towns if there's no Gobert.
I actually have Michael Porter Jr. ahead of Karl Anthony Towns as well.
What?
So, yeah.
Oh, you're wild. You're wilding. You're wilding up.
DiVincenzo, Conley, Hartenstein, Nesmith, Caldwell Pope, and Nembhard.
It's Hartenstein, and I feel absolutely atrocious about it.
I've got DiVincenzo.
Okay. And that would be my number 2, but I would also feel really horrible about him considering I'm undercutting him in real DFS. But yeah, they're both 3 fantasy points better than Conley. So definitely going to be one of the 2.
Reed, McConnell, Robinson, Toppin, McDaniels, Alexander Walker, and McBride.
McDaniels if Gobert is in. The easiest tier in Naz Reid if Gobert is out.
Completely agree. And then finally, everybody else. I've got Christian Brown here.
Yeah, I think Christian Brown's probably the right play no matter what. Who else is there? Like Shepard, Anderson, Reggie.
Jackson, Brown, Isaiah Jackson, Peyton Watson, Monty Morris, Ben Shepard, Justin Holiday.
Do you think there's any kind of a quick hook situation if Jamal Murray looks as bad as he got last? He started to get it going a little bit at times, but like I can't imagine Reggie Jackson is going to get any more than 12 minutes under any circumstances. 14 minutes, I guess he got to in game 1. So yeah, I wouldn't want to click on his name, that's for sure.
Not so much. And then Riley Cooper said, Toppin Revenge Tour with the thinky face.
Sure, hope not.
I think that we end up not seeing him by the time this series is over. For game 1, I think you probably get similar output.
Yeah,
I think they're going to find out that Jalen Brunson getting into the rim is not going to be viable if Obi Toppin's on the floor.
Obi
I
Toppin
think
very, very bad at the defense. Yes.
I think the Knicks are going to be able to punish that a little bit more as long as Brunson's out there.
It's funny. I was listening to some.
If they can keep Toppin out there when Brunson sits, that's their only shot, I think.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, Brunson is Brunson's going to shoot the ball a lot in this series. It's going to be really fun to watch, actually, because like, I don't know, some people harp about certain ball hogs and history of basketball, and it's not as fun. It's fun to watch little Jalen Brunson out there. Maybe part of it is like the bias towards lefties looking cool to a certain extent. Like, it's fun to watch Jalen Brunson chuck it up 30 plus times a game.
It is. It really is. He's good. He's good.
He's good. He's way better than I thought he would ever be. I think that's probably the sentiment for a lot of people. What's up?
San Antonio Spurs Victor Wembanyama has won the 2023-2024 NBA Rookie of the Year.
You don't say. That is shocking. Unbelievable run out.
I'll tell you what, until the final like 6-8 weeks of the season, he was not my vote.
I loved everything Chet was doing, but the reason for me also, Chet had a year of being at least in an NBA weight room and like focusing on that, and it was weird to me that he would be labeled a rookie. I know it was his first season playing, but if he doesn't have the Laws Frank, Travis Etienne injury, playing basketball up in Washington with LeBron and friends, like we probably had an unbelievable 2 years ago Chet Holmgren campaign that probably would have been incredible, but obviously just landing on the Wemby year, it was going to be tough for me to have that sell, but Wemby is generational.
That he is. They got that one right. That's for sure. He closed quite strong.
Yes, he sure did. What would you set the odds on him getting a quadruple double next year at?
Better than anybody else in the league.
That is a fucking fact. But I was just thinking about that. Had that conversation with a buddy the other day.
I don't know what they line it. I don't know what it's ever lined for like individual games or anything like that. So I don't have any like perspective for it.
Well, I would imagine you just have a massive hold on it and probably have like 40 cents on both sides of it just to, really, really make somebody want it to play it. But like, it's wild to think that somebody's like a 2-to-1 dog probably to even quadruple double in a game next year. And that's probably where we landed on for the line. It's just insane what he does.
I'm more interested in him hanging like a triple double 5x5 and it just being like, what did he do? 30, 10, 10, 5 and 5. And you're just like, huh?
The thing is that he has such a bad team around him. Like, I mean, I know Keldon Johnson's minutes kind of limited. You've got, how much money? I haven't looked at San Antonio's money situation. I don't know what they
have unlimited money. They can do whatever they want.
Then do you think they go for it next year? Or do they sit on it for one more year and be terrible?
I assume they don't do anything that rocks the boat.
Okay.
They've got they've got Atlanta's picks coming up in the future that they can add with. I think they probably try to get like solid help, no crazy contracts. The only way that I think they go crazy is if they get like an all-star. Like if they actually shoot that shot. Yeah.
That would be an incredible run out there because LeBron, he doesn't need money. Just have him show up on something small and like try to win a ship by bringing somebody else in with him.
Definitely not trade for Trae Young and sign PG. That would be the not move to make.
Be the absolute stone cold worst thing ever. Do not play basketball, Trae Young.
I mean, I don't mind trying to acquire Trae Young. I think that if you can do that for the right price, there's, getting him in there, those two would be electric. But you don't do Trae and PG because then you're just not going to win and you're spending your assets. Yep. All right, let's get to GPP plays. Who are you taking a shot on more than the field is?
Naz Reid, it would appear. Obviously, that one doesn't need a whole lot of explaining, and obviously it could look really, really good or really, really bad very, very quickly. But I think even if you get Gobert into this basketball game, we got to think about this logically where he's flying across. I'm assuming his wife's in Minnesota. I still don't know the answer to this. I've been looking on Twitter. I'm literally sitting here going, what? Yes. So I'm assuming he's coming from Minnesota, flying in. But Dane Moore's the guy that, everybody tweeted out and then was just looking at Legion Hoops and like trying to look at all the different spots. Dave McMenamin was, maybe like, hey, I'll put on alerts or see if something pops up from him potentially. Cause like you have two guys and one ends up being One ends up being Naz Reid, and that's kind of the obvious one. I think the other major beneficiary has to be Nickeil Alexander-Walker. We've already seen him inserted into a lot of rotations where you just didn't think he was going to be a massive part of things. He was a massive part of things in that Suns series where they were able to play him on the floor more in the first 3 games than Karl Anthony Towns. And I think there might need to be some different there needs to be some different lineup formations, different ways of going about it if there's going to be no Gobert on the floor for defensive assignments. And I don't know what that necessarily means for Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I've worked through a couple of different scenarios, but I've just given him an ROI boost to get a little bit more of him in addition to just changing the projection. Because like if you change Naz Reid to like 35, you're going to get 100% of him at this price tag with Gobert out. Like that's just a foregone conclusion for me. But I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker is like a sneaky beneficiary and gets me a little bit more late exposure, allows for me to get away from all of the insane chalkiness that exists with Donte DiVincenzo with the identical positionality. So for me, shooting guard, small forward, somebody that I just like getting to be a little bit different. I have more Nickeil Alexander-Walker in my lineups than I do Donte DiVincenzo. 30% DiVincenzo, 44% Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
My highest exposed guy over the field right now is a wild card today. How do you feel about Miles McBride?
Feel just awful, but I have quite a bit of him. Let me pull up what I
would imagine he's way more interesting to you where you get him in a different game than the pay up of Jokic. Like that seems like a pretty natural pairing.
Well, not only that, but I just don't know. And I think that's not what everybody wants to hear on these shows, but like I can't tell you what's going to happen for DiVincenzo's first rotation. If you told me DiVincenzo knocked down 3 threes in the first 8 minutes of the game, I would be underweight to Miles McBride. If you told me Donte DiVincenzo was 0 for 4 in his first rotation, I would want to jam Miles McBride more than likely in this matchup. Like one of the two is going to play more minutes than you think. Like you're either going to see DiVincenzo, who currently I'm way underweight to because I put him in for 33 minutes. How many minutes do you have DiVincenzo for?
34.
Okay, so you're a minute more, but that minute is pretty valuable still in just like what my allotment is going to be. I'm playing 170 lineups, and I'm basically saying, all right, what do I really want to have my exposure? Like, do I want to make some kind of a pronounced stand on a 55% owned player where I'm just like completely eradicating from my lineups as a result of it? No, I don't want to do that. But just by taking him down a little bit and giving a little bit of that boost to Miles McBride, that's another guy I'm definitely on board with you there. For me, I'm just kind of highlighting, I think, the most obvious thing that exists on this slate, the big question mark with Gobert. He's apparently going to be coming back or hopefully coming back for my Timberwolves tonight. But if he's not, I would want to get to those other value pieces. And I just don't want to have 55% DiVincenzo in all of these lineups. I think I can be a little bit more palatable here towards Miles McBride as a result for it. I have, let me see how much that I had, because Sims Tool was still getting me to quite a bit of him. He's only in 24 and change of my lineups right now, but I had more of them before. I don't know why I just decreased his ROI there for some reason.
I have 62% right now.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. And I'm not necessarily scared from the DiVincenzo piece. I want to whisper this. I'm scared of Alec Burks.
What?
Game 1, new series. You got to find out if anybody different can play.
Yeah.
They're short on dudes. Whether that ends up being, I think one of Precious or Burks sees the floor today for sure, if not both. Because I think you need to know if you have anybody else that you can rely on in a new series. And any minute that Alec Burks is going to get is probably coming at the expense of Miles McBride. And that is the tricky thing for me. It doesn't, like, I'm not saying that I think Alec Burks plays 20 minutes. I'm not saying you roster Alec Burks. But if he plays one first quarter rotation from the 4-minute mark till the end of the quarter, those are 4 minutes that one of those guards that I'm rostering didn't play. That little bit is everything in these spots. That's what scares me at least a little bit.
So we had 30 minutes of Precious, and obviously that was mainly because Mitchell Robinson dinged up. I am going through. Honestly, you said Alec Burks, and now my brain can't process anything right now. He played 0 minutes in the last series. obviously the thing you're highlighting is that there is no Bojan out there, and Bojan played 25, 12, 13, and then got hurt immediately in that game where, he ends up out for the season now. But okay. Well, are you worried that that's going to affect DiVincenzo more or McBride more? Because, I mean, obviously
McBride.
DiVincenzo's very popular, and I think he gets first crack at everything. I think he gets benefit of the doubt for everything. But yeah, that is definitely something where I didn't think about that from McBride's standpoint whatsoever. All I know is that McBride went from being somebody that could be the hot hand substitution in for DiVincenzo to playing 9 frickin' minutes against Philly in the closeout game. So it got a little bit hairy pretty quickly there, but still think McBride's the guy who gets first crack at him. Maybe Alec Burks does get rotated in and should evaluate it from that standpoint. I mean, is that somebody that against Indy, considering Indy, I mean, they have all the bodies of guys that can come in other than Benedict Mathurin, who's out for the season. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys that I have in the rotation for today. I don't want to completely eradicate Jalen Smith. I'm not sure how that works out between him and Isaiah Jackson, but there's a number of different spots where minutes are projected, and you can look at multiple different places. I don't know. It's basically 9.5 guys, if you want to call it that, for Indy. 7 is currently. I had 7, and then I had 4 minutes for Precious Achua for whatever it's worth.
I can't believe how many people are just missing everything that I just said. It's fascinating. It's truly fascinating. I mean, not in the AM, bro. Like, you're around all the time. McBride is arguably the second best Nick right now. Dude played 9 minutes last game. 9. What are we talking about here?
I had lots of Miles McBride.
So did I. They obviously have no problem playing him 9 minutes in a basketball game.
Yeah. Other than Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, and Jalen Brunson, the minutes for those other 4 dudes can be anywhere. God forbid Alec Burks plays 12 minutes today or plays well in those 12 minutes. Because we will have a massive headache ahead of us on this slate, or like in future slates of this series. But I gotta think that for me, we should probably move along from this one. But like, Josh Hart,
because it's just stupidity after stupidity in this chat. I'm like, oh, Alec Burks might play 4 minutes, and I don't know who they come from, but that matters when you're trying to establish value. And all of a sudden, it's as if those words weren't said. It's like I came in and was just like, who's the sneakiest play of the day? Alec Burks. Not what I'm saying in any way.
Yeah. So think about it this way. I don't know if people actually put in like their own inputs from time to time. Again, at Stochastic, we have the Sims tool. You're able to make tweaks, whether it's the ROI boost or going into the projection and change it out, or you can aggregate. You can do lots of different things to get where you want to go and have the allotment you really want to have. If there's a player you want to make a stand on, not too hard to do it. But Josh has DiVincenzo in for 34 minutes. I have him in for 33. And I think you said you had 50% and I have 30%. Like, yeah, that's a 20% difference based on 1 minute. And I bet we have about the exact same rates if we were to just go through it bit by bit. Like,
no doubt.
It is really easy to go about projecting him from a rates perspective because we've just seen important games for the Knicks for a month and we kind of know what those numbers are going to look like. And we're ramping them up a little bit to face Indy, but like that's a 20% difference based on 1 minute with identical rates. That's a crazy thing to think about from time to time, but a lot of times people just want to have you talk about the plays or say the plays. And at the end of the day, let the data run and let your biases get taken out of it to a certain extent. And then, like, again, I have no idea what to do with the Gobert thing. I think that's the headache for everybody on this slate, but like, you got to kind of just come to a concrete idea of what you want to do. And then when you're presented new information, adjust it. Like that's kind of what we're doing here.
Any other GPP plays standing out for you?
So you're playing a lot of Ant. How much Ant are you playing?
I have 34% right now. I will probably start another run right now.
Okay. I feel like OG Anunoby's the other guy to talk about. He's my highest owned player on the slate. He's 33% owned. He's 5,900 small forward, power forward going up against Indiana. I have him, Brunson, and Hart all for 44 minutes. I don't know how to take away from them. I think OG Anunoby and Hart stay out forever. They are short on wings. They don't have other wings they want to play. You brought up Alec Burks, which again, I think that kind of, I don't want to say hurts Hart or Anunoby, even like him showing up there to some extent. But for me, I think they're the two easiest guys to play, considering we know that you get the pace up spot. This is, only a 217, 218 total, I suppose. But at the same time, this is an up-tempo spot here for the Knicks. No doubt about it, based on the totals that we saw in the low 200s against the Knicks on the road in that last one and things of that nature. I guess, did they have a total that dropped under 200 in one of those spots? I feel like it did, but it was always right around the 200, 202 type number. I think it's so easy for me to build out OG Anunoby. Doesn't really run into the positionality of like a Naz Reid. Nickeil Alexander-Walker fits in the lineups pretty easily for me. So from this first game, I'm just jamming OG. I'm just jamming Josh Hart here. So 68% OG Anunoby, sitting just ahead of my Nikola Jokic, and then 55% Josh Hart. Just absolutely love them both relative to their current ownership.
You mentioned a couple of guys there, and you said you love them both, but I'm curious who you love the most. Which guy blows the ding-dong off your body? We need to know who is the nuke of the night. Very curious to see what I end up with here in the long run. Yeah. Beep boop. Who you got? Who's nuking it?
Who's nuking it? Well, I'm hoping that Rudy Gobert plays basketball today. I'm really hoping.
I think we should assume that he's playing.
I want to assume that he's playing too, but how well is he going to play? He's coming from the birth of a child. He's coming back across the country from Minnesota back to Denver. Not all the way across the country by any means. It's not that far, but it is still
2-hour
far enough.
flight.
Yeah. So we're going to be on Rudy Gobert watch for a lot of ways. Like, first off, like, how ready is he to go? Is there anything that he needed to change up? Is there anything that Minnesota ran for sets or for other things at the end of quarters where they might rip Gobert off the floor? Is there an opportunity for something different to happen in the run out of this game? And I think that's where we just have to look at this 4K range and just kind of take everything with a grain of salt, because like, I want to make Naz Reid the nuke. I do. I really, really do. Because if you didn't have him, you'd want 100% of him if you knew Gobert was going to be out. But I'm going to go to the guy who scored 0 points in that first game that I have not brought up here. He is 24% owned. He has 26% optimal percentage. And eventually you're going to see him knock down shots in addition to being on the floor for 39 minutes in the first game, just out there defensively doing everything. Fit small forward, not going to be that owned. Got to think that if Gobert's in, he's definitely not going to be that owned relative to what Naz Reid and what Karl Anthony Towns and what Nickeil Alexander-Walker might even be. But Jaden McDaniels, 4,500. I have 42% of my nuke of the night.
Oh, I've been on that road before.
It's not a good road.
No, it's not.
Can we get that game 2 Jaden McDaniels against the Suns? That would be enjoyable.
So I don't have a natural nuke of the night. Right now it's Miles McBride, but that is not where I land in terms of guys that I'm most over the field on. So I'm going to go to my second option, a man that you mentioned earlier. $5,900, and in half of my lineups, going to play some terrific defense on Pascal Siakam. Come on down, OG Anunoby. You are the nuke of the night.
Couldn't love it more.
Me too. That's a punt, Josh. Look, if Miles McBride plays as many minutes as most of you guys think he's supposed to play, then it can be a nuke at 3,900.
As we get in, before we go to like the guys that we're fading, Mitchell Robinson, Isaiah Hartenstein, how many minutes are you projecting each for? I think that's a pretty interesting talking point.
I have 27 to Isaiah Hartenstein. I have 20 to Mitchell Robinson.
Okay, so like a minute, 2 minutes, precious potentially, or something happens for it. I think that's just fine. What is that doing? Because now I just reran stuff. I had Mitchell Robinson popping for me a little bit before. It would imagine, as we're talking through some stuff, I am not as high on Mitchell Robinson, which feels way better. But he has 4K, friends. This is like exact same thing from game 1 that we had against Embiid there, where all of a sudden Mitchell Robinson from the ether plays 30 minutes. Now, he ended up kind of getting dinged up to a spot where like, oh, we're not going to do that again, even though he goes from 30 to like 18. Maybe it becomes a hot hand approach here for a game 1 or something like that. But I do think Hartenstein, you have to be projecting for more. But Mitchell Robinson at 4K would be really, really appealing. If you just told me right from the get-go, 23 minutes, 22 minutes even. Like, I feel like that's a piece that I would just want to have tons of in this first game, but it's hard for me to really like go crazy with it.
He could play anywhere from 10 to 28 minutes today, and I would believe every single bit of it.
Doesn't that suck? But it's also fun,
Yeah.
but it kind of sucks. Ugh.
It's these new series, man. We need to figure out what the opening blueprint is. This is the one we have to guess the most on. Because usually you can kind of see the path. Now, obviously, Tibbs isn't much of a new path guy. Probably gonna forge ahead wherever it's already been, but I think he opens it up a little.
That's where I feel so good about OG. And that's the thing that I like about, again, he's my highest owned player. He's, your nuke of the night. Like, there's not a lot of scenarios that I can play out in my head where OG and Josh Hart, besides foul trouble, get off the floor at any point.
Can you imagine if he ran these dudes out for 48 minutes in game one?
Be incredible. But also, this is Tom Thibodeau. He has no regard for humanity.
He's like, no, this is game 7 or whatever it is.
Dude, back in the Jimmy Butler days, even the Jimmy Butler days in Minnesota, I mean, just insanity. The guy was an insane person. Karl Anthony Towns would play like 44 minutes every night and complain and bitch about everything. And then it'd be an important game. You get in foul trouble immediately. We had just nothing. It was a stone cold disaster. Had who was it? Who was the Pacers guy that we got? Point guard. I just remember can't just space.
Darren Collison?
No. Nope. As soon as I see the name, Chad will have it. Came from Indy.
Point guard.
Jeff Teague. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Jeff Teague. Like, Jeff Teague, I remember because my parents have season tickets. And so, like, I went to a game over Christmas or whatever. And Jeff Teague's just like, maybe don't play him forever or something. He was like bitching about like Karl Anthony Towns getting hurt or something in a game. And him and Tibbs were going back and forth. It was great.
Dude, he played Luol Deng like 44 minutes in a game after a spinal tap.
He sure did. I love Tibbs for it. It's also just like, man, the guy was an insane person. But yeah, there were some interesting seasons there in Minnesota.
Wild stuff. I'm going to upload this final file for myself here and let this sim run. And then I'm going to talk to you guys just a little tiny bit about the presenting sponsor of this show, which is Underdog. You guys see it on the screen. I have a hair dangling off the back of my neck. That's tickling me. Don't like it. First match deposit bonus at Underdog up to $100 as long as you click the link in chat or the one in the description. Got to be 18 or over. Some states it's a little bit higher than that. They are a one-stop shop for whatever you could possibly be looking for. If you're in a non-legal betting state, they've got pick'em contests. You could 20x your money. They have daily fantasy contests with large field GPPs every single day. Best ball, they are known for it. They are the gold standard for best ball. If you're playing best ball, particularly for the NFL, you are definitely keeping an eye on Underdog. It's just a great spot. If you're looking to do a little bit of everything, especially if you're not in a legal sports betting state, Underdog's fantastic. OddsShopper works well with Underdog if you're looking for additional plays on the pick'em side. I even got a little tweet here from Underdog. They're discounting 4 separate plays today. You could use one, but they're all available. None of these are available anymore, Jordan. Thanks for giving me this. Thanks for those free plays you gave me on Underdog that are totally meaningless now.
Jordan Klein.
Did you read the tweet that you sent me where it says these are only good until 4? Yeah. You sent that shit to me at 6:11. They were dead for 2 hours and 11 minutes.
What an idiot. What a loser.
That doesn't mean that you shouldn't sign up for Underdog. You could just use that information earlier instead of getting it later, like Jordan Klein gave it to me. Worst producer in the industry, man. I'll tell you. I should have self-produced this show. We would have been fine.
It'd be more enjoyable.
Sign up for Underdog, everybody. Who are you fading?
It would appear like the most popular guys on the slate, so that's cool.
There you go.
I'm currently half the ownership of Jalen Brunson, sitting at 34% of my lineups. I'm sitting at so Hart jamming. Hartenstein, I'm a little bit under, so nothing crazy there. Neesmith, a little bit under on, nothing crazy there either. Mike Conley's kind of an interesting one, 5,400. I'm under on him at 20%. And then the biggie, it shouldn't surprise anybody. Dante DiVincenzo, 51% of ownership here. He is currently in 20% of my lineups now. He's come down a little bit further here. Gave a little bit of a boost to Nickeil Alexander-Walker, gave a little bit of a boost to Jaden McDaniels. And obviously, we've talked about the reasons why, where, again, we're waiting for the Gobert confirmation. Will he or won't he? Obviously, it matters. But these are risks I'm willing to take where I can get to a little bit more Miles McBride like you as well. And then some of those Minnesota pieces. So trimming some of that ownership off of Dante DiVincenzo. So congratulations to him for his 30 ball tonight.
I'm making a small adjustment. Otherwise, I have a lot of Isaiah Hartenstein right now, which is starting to scare me a bit.
I get it.
I think what I have right now is going to have to be what I play. So let me paste this into my upload sheet and at least submit these lineups before we talk about the final fades that I have right now. I ended up with a lot more of Anthony Edwards. I think he's going to be more owned than what he was before, like what we're showing too. Just I think he's the fun guy to want to click on.
I'm a fun guy. I like the game of basketball.
Okay, my fades. I know TJ McConnell will be one of them. That never changes. Biggest fade for me is TJ McConnell. I barely have him. He's 27% owned. Mike Conley is second. Nikola Jokic is third. I have 18% of Jokic. We're currently projecting about 34. Miles McBride is my biggest stand. Anthony Edwards, I have 40% of, and I'm still just hanging out in and around 60 for Jalen Brunson. I'm scared. I'm scared. McBride is terrifying. Terrifying.
Yeah. I wish McBride was like 5K, like Nemhard, so I wouldn't have to deal with it. And I could just know, oh, it's like a 25% dude, and I'll just get a little bit. But like,
I would like him a lot if Tyrese Halliburton were healthy. But because Tyrese Halliburton doesn't seem to be as healthy as he was, I think McBride's usefulness in this series is less than it would have been. And that is like the part, it's just like, I've got this like seed of it stuck in my brain. 3 minutes to go, by the way, guys.
What a fascinating way of looking at that. I didn't think about that at all.
Yeah. It's just like, okay, well, like, I don't think that they're worried about D'ing up Andrew Nemhard. So
do they just play Mitchell Robinson? Am I going to play Mitchell Robinson in single entry? Is this a real thing I'm about to do?
Oy. Okay.
Why is he in my top lineup? No, that's terrible. Why would I have that?
Let me just see what the highest ranked lineup I have with him in.
He was way down. I put him to 22 minutes just to see what, again, 20, 21. I think that's been the sentiment here. I put him to like 22, 23, where it's more of a split away from Hartenstein because I'm under on Hartenstein at the moment. And I don't like what I got. So
he's in my 14th ranked lineup.
Okay. That's not as bad as I was expecting. If you had to get to like 42 or something, I would probably question it. But...
And I have 20%. So it's not like, that's the only one that I was able to find. Okay. Amber Heard, play of the day. I mean, I'm absolutely terrified that Jokic drops 80 tonight.
Yep. I will really be cheering for him and hoping that he drops 80. I guess I could make him the Amber Heard play of the night in the other direction where I am jamming and you are not. So probably the Amber play of the night for both of us. So he can be the exotic play, kind of the nuke of the night if we want to get away from McDaniels. And then, this is going to be fascinating. That's for sure.
Playback.tv/stochastic. That is where we will be in 90 seconds. We're already there right now. We've been there for the entire hour, but we will be there exclusively to watch Knicks and Pacers. I can hand out up to 40 VIP passes so you guys can watch along with us. Should be fun. I'm really excited to watch the beginning of this game. We'll talk betting. We'll talk sweats. We'll probably talk about how I'm freaking out at whoever I have a lot of in the first game that isn't playing very well. Traditional stuff around here for playback. Any final thoughts before we duck on out of here?
No, I'm excited for game ones. I'm excited for game ones. Game ones are always the best. We get to kind of like make some educated stands, but also we're going to probably get fucked about something and we're going to be wrong about something. And that just kind of comes with the territory of doing this job where you put in the work, you just try to come up with the best you possibly can. You trust the data, which we have the best data in the entire industry. So I feel pretty good about that. And as a result, I'm making a couple of small tweaks. Hopefully those tweaks pay off because, and yeah, you're going to definitely want to pay attention to news. There's kind of some news waiting in the wings for this evening that's kind of important. So stick around, playback. Maybe I'll jump in later if massive news breaks.
There we go, folks. Lock in 15 seconds. If your lineups aren't in, you're probably making a giant mistake right now. Put them in. Stop listening to me. We're off to playback. Shout out to Underdog for being the sponsor. No shout outs for Jordan Klein today. None whatsoever. We'll talk to you later.